All right, I think we can kick things off here. Thanks again for the slow start here. Today is Thursday, April 13th, and this is the GnosisDAO Community Call. My name is John. I'm a contributor with the GnosisDAO, and please be aware that this call is being recorded. The format of the call for today is going to go as such. We have some Gnosis ecosystem updates, and then we'll have a nice conversation with Kirill, one of the co-founders of StakeWise. So, Gnosis Guild, Marv, if you're ready, you can hit us with some updates about Gnosis Guild.
Hey, thanks for having us, John. A good chunk of our team is in ETH Tokyo right now, so if any of you are there and want to meet up, just reach out. We'd love to see you. So yeah, I just have a few updates for today. First, our team has just completed its 9th build cycle, which we call a Gnostic cycle. These cycles last for 8 weeks and are a time for us to build and shape projects that we collectively vote on. So for cycle number 9, we worked on 5 projects, including updates to tooling around the Zodiac Roles mod, a newly announced bridge aggregator called Hashi, which is designed to make cross-chain transactions more secure, and a new Zodiac mod called Siphon, which allows anyone to trigger a safe to withdraw from a designated liquidity position. We build in the open, so hop in our Discord if you want to learn more or just want to discuss these projects with us. On a similar tip, we just published our first external report on our Mirror blog. So if you're interested to learn more about what we've been working on in the last quarter, please check it out. The report has info about our new releases and the many projects we're working on. But it also includes updates on like Zodiac integrations and a host of other cultural initiatives, including the latest submissions to zodiac.wiki, which is an open resource for DAOs that we initiated last year. Yeah, so relatedly, Jahed from Prime DAO recently submitted a new pattern to the wiki called Working Group Lifespans. The pattern describes the organic emergence of working groups within DAOs, then explores the sort of time-bound considerations that DAOs should address when thinking about working groups. So basically a pattern that explores the varying lifespans of DAO working groups. And he includes different approaches from organizations like MetaGov, ENS, Yearn, Ocean Protocol. So yeah, check it out if you'd like. And yeah, last but not least, I'm really excited to announce a new Gnosis Guild team member. Her name is Pandy, and she's our new community coordination steward. She'll be collaborating with me on a number of community projects, the first of which started as a writing program, but has since evolved to become an open program for these sort of novel community experiments. So we'll be starting our first experiment in the next month or so based on the collaborative surrealist art game Exquisite Corpse. And we'll have invitations to participate in upcoming experiments around that time too. Yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot, John. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Marv, as always. And next up, we're going to have some updates from the Gnosis Chain team, and they couldn't make it, so you're stuck with me. I'm going to read the updates that the Gnosis Chain team gave me, which are not many. Recently, they've spun up 2 DevNets, and a third one is coming early next week. The first one was with the old contract, and the second one failed fairly unexpectedly because of peering issues on our end. The new one will have the latest contract, and it will be ran more centrally to avoid these issues that are unlikely to happen on bigger networks. And then lastly, a new objective is to open up Chiato for our users so that they'll be able to go through the fork when it happens for the testnet. And that's it for Gnosis Chain updates. And from the Gnosis DAO side, the forum has recently been updated, so go check that out if you haven't already. The new look is intended to mirror the branding identity of Gnosis Chain to signal the close relationship between the Gnosis DAO and Gnosis Chain. The safe team also couldn't make it, so I will stand in for them as well. But a really exciting announcement from the safe team is that along with Gnosis Chain, users can now create a safe without paying for gas. So they can send transactions without paying fees. Check out our Twitter thread, posted on the call right now to learn more. And we'll be sharing more info across all of our channels really soon about that exciting announcement. And with that, let's turn it over to StakeWise and let's talk with Kirill. Kirill, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. I'm just going to give a quick introduction about StakeWise so we have some shared context and everyone on the call can kind of understand what we're talking about if they're not aware of what StakeWise is. So just want to say hi to Kirill real quick. Kirill, how you doing?
Hey. Thank you for having me. Happy
Yeah,
Chappelle Day,
man.
everyone. Looking forward to similar things happening on Gnosis Chain. Yeah, my pleasure to be here. I'm excited for today's conversation.
Absolutely. So StakeWise is an Ethereum and Gnosis Chain staking pool company that currently hosts over $144 million, which, correct me if I'm wrong with that, Kirill, it might be more. So staking, for anyone who's unaware, staking on Ethereum and Gnosis Chain is the act of depositing funds. So for Ethereum, it's 32 ETH, and for Gnosis Chain, it's 1 GNO. And by doing so, you secure the network by activating validator software. So as a validator, you're responsible for storing data, processing transactions, and adding new blocks to the blockchain. In return, the network is secured and validators earn new ETH or GNO in the process. For Gnosis Chain, there's currently over 127,000 validators securing the network, making it second only to Ethereum in terms of validator diversity and decentralization. So for StakeWise, there's a giant market opportunity as billions of dollars are currently staked on Ethereum and Gnosis Chain. The current yield for Gnosis Chain is over 14%, a comparatively high rate, and on StakeWise, actually, you can get a higher yield, which we'll definitely get into today. StakeWise earns its revenue by charging for staking services, the staking services that they provide. And okay, yeah, with that very long-winded intro, let's jump into it. So, Kirill, what's that StakeWise apart from other staking providers?
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for that great introduction. Secondly, yeah, when it comes to StakeWise, I think our USP, so unique offering to the market has always been our dual token model, which represents deposits made into staking as one token. It's called SGNO on the Gnosis chain, so stake GNO, and pays out rewards that are accumulated from staking in a separate token called RGNO, so reward GNO. The reason why we split these things into two tokens instead of capturing them in one is because for starters, you can utilize the secondary market for these tokens to occasionally compound your rewards. So reinvest anything that you earned back into staking and turn non-productive capital that is not earning any interest, so rewards, into productive capital that is deposits. So for starters, this is just an amplification of yield that you can achieve. And secondly, there's just this simplicity with handling rewards separately from deposits, especially in an environment where the yields are much higher than, let's say, on Ethereum, and there's actually some rewards that you can manage pretty consistently. Instead of occasionally selling a portion of just one token that some people do on Ethereum whenever they stake with single token providers, they can just use RGNO to occasionally liquidate their earnings into something else, and we think that it's just more convenient. And yeah, that has been StakeWise's sort of key approach. Now, with the upcoming upcoming Chapella fork, or however we're going to call it in Gnosis Chain. StakeWise is slightly changing in its approach, with partial withdrawals soon to be enabled. There's actually native compounding that will be happening in the background. So any rewards that our validators on Gnosis Chain earn will be able to plow back into staking, just automatically without any tokenization. And for this reason, we feel that maybe separating rewards into a separate token no longer makes the same sense as it did before. So there will be a transition to a single token model. But perhaps even more importantly, we will enable some pretty cool things for Gnosis Chain to further decentralize itself. And this includes liquid solo staking on Gnosis Chain with StakeWise V3. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into this in our conversation today.
And that differs from Ethereum. You can only do the liquid solo staking on Gnosis Chain, correct?
So actually, this is the functionality that we're bringing to both Ethereum and Gnosis Chain. But I do think that Gnosis Chain, just owing to its reduced capital requirements to become a solo operator, is going to be a major beneficiary of this functionality that we're bringing. So for many people that could potentially run a Gnosis validator, but don't because of let's say their inability to access the Gnosis Chain ecosystem without some sort of liquid token, they will finally be able to do so from their computers. So run Gnosis validators and stake their GNO into their own nodes rather than delegating it to somebody else, and still have a liquid staking token on top to participate in all of the innovation that's happening on Gnosis Chain and its DeFi market. So it's similar to Ethereum, but I think since it's much cheaper to be a validator on Gnosis, and people's entry into solo staking therefore is much lower in Gnosis, we're going to see way more effect on how popular solo staking becomes with StakeWise V3 on Gnosis Chain rather than Ethereum. But yeah, we'll see. But I'm very hopeful for Gnosis Chain.
So you'll get rid of RGNO and you'll keep SGNO intact, right?
So we actually expect that there's going to be a change in both tokens into a single token, and this is owing to just how the platform works. So there is a concept of a vault in StakeWise V3, and a vault is a staking contract that can attract deposits and of course handle withdrawals. And the idea is that anyone can launch their own vault. What StakeWise has on Gnosis Chain today is essentially a StakeWise pool, and this is going to be the first vault that is going to exist in StakeWise V3. And whatever stake people currently have with StakeWise is represented with SGNO and RGNO today. It's going to be converted into something we call a VLT token, a representation of your stake in the pool with just one token. So this is the migration between the dual token model and the single token model that I'm talking about. So, once this migration is executed, people will no longer have two tokens, but rather just one. But the important thing to note is that this is actually not going to be the moment where they can go off to DeFi and start using their capital. Actually, from their vault, they will have the ability to mint a liquid staking token by essentially locking the VLT token that they received. It sounds, let's say, super technical, but actually in the app, it's all abstracted away, so no need to worry about the complexity. The idea is that since we want to enable people to create their own vaults, and this is how we enable liquid solo staking, by the way, by allowing a person to create their own vault and stake into it and run nodes for it. So since we want to allow anyone to do this, we want to have a token that's composable across all of these vaults to give access to DeFi. And this requires that at some point, someone provides some collateral against slashing, because otherwise, if you have permissionless participation in the network without providing collateral, there's high incentive to, or rather absence of disincentive to misbehave. So the risk of slashing increases. And so to protect against that, we require something that's called over-collateralization. But instead of putting this, let's say, on the node operators, we actually ask for over-collateralization on the level of vaults. So users who want to mint a liquid staking token will not be minting, let's say, 100% of their capital in liquid form, but rather 90% of their capital in liquid form. And this way, essentially, we'll be leaving a portion of stake as buffer against slashing. And yeah, this is, if you were to summarize like this migration process, starting from what I described as the migration between the dual token model to a VLT token, and then from a VLT token to something we call OSGNO, which is over collateralized GNO, then it's going to be, one press of a button for the user. But what's going to happen under the hood is that your stake with the StakeWise pool is going to be assigned to the first of the vaults. You're going to receive a VLT token. And then if you want to have that stake liquid, you're going to mint the OSGNO token and go do your stuff. So that is, in short, what the process is going to look like.
Yeah, super cool. So let's say I'm a new StakeWise user. I'm interested in Gnosis Chain and in the emerging DeFi ecosystem that it has. So I come on to StakeWise and I want to do liquid solo staking, and I'm trying to wrap my head around kind of what you just said. So the underlying asset or the underlying whatever you have in your vault is going to be the underlying asset that supports the token that you get to mint off of your pool.
Correct.
And it's over collateralized by that underlying asset, which is what you've staked. And then you can take that token that you've minted, and then you can go off into the wonderful forest of the Gnosis Chain DeFi ecosystem, and you can use it all while knowing that your returns are being compounded in that vault. Is that a fair summary?
That is an absolutely perfect summary. I don't think I could have put it better myself.
I mean, I'm excited to use it myself. So I think you guys have come up with something that's super cool. And like, how are you promoting this? This new token that can be minted. Like, how are you pushing for that adoption in the Gnosis Chain DeFi ecosystem?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I think we're currently at the first stage of the planning, which is just get the token deployed, execute the migration from the existing pool to the new version, and just get it out there. And this is just the first thing that needs to happen. StakeWise V3 needs to be shipped. The second thing after that, it starts with creating liquidity for the new token, OSGNO. And similarly to how we currently have liquidity on Curve, with OSGNO, we will want to create a liquidity pool that is deep enough to handle significant flows of capital, and we'll probably not want to stop there and create a few more. pools to facilitate trading in the token, just owing to the different arbitrage opportunities that emerge when it's paired against, let's say, stables or against other major tokens in the ecosystem. So the goal here is to create sufficient trading volume for the development of a price oracle that is going to be recognized in major DeFi applications on Gnosis Chain. So any lending protocol, any protocol that wants to have, let's say, the token used as collateral for options trading, for example, anything that requires OSGNO to be used as collateral will want a price oracle, and the price oracle development relies on ample trading activity to correctly estimate the price. So stage 2 is the development of liquidity for OSGNO that is sufficient to create a price oracle. And then the third stage would be the actual sort of onboarding with the various protocols on Gnosis Chain. So we will go through the governance processes and enable borrowing and lending against OSGNO, and see where else we can get it included. And I think this is just this free stage plan that we currently have that we'll be executing against. The longer term vision for OSGNO, we will probably want to figure out, because we are, I guess, betting a lot on increased liquid solo staking participation, and trying to make sure the system is decentralizing the Gnosis chain, and rather than leading to concentration of stake on the nodes of just several providers. And so, if we see that this is happening successfully, then OSGNO will probably have a place on other networks as well, and we would probably look to port it somewhere else and get it included into more protocols than just exist on Gnosis Chain alone. But this is everything that's just happening after the first free stage plan, and we're trying to focus on these 3 steps first, and only dreaming about the part that comes after.
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff takes time, and it's one step at a time. I have to be methodical, and let's turn to the discussion to the topic of geographic diversity and validators. And I mean, first off, I want to say and just foreground the conversation with the fact that Kirill and StakeWise are not one and the same. Like, StakeWise has a DAO, and Kirill, I'm sure you have your own views about topics like decentralization and geographic diversity when it comes to validators. So for Gnosis Chain, it's a community-run chain that very much values credible neutrality, and the way to do that is to have a very geographically diverse set of validators. So Gnosis Chain has this long-term goal of having at least one node in every country around the world. So yeah, in terms of StakeWise, which provides a service for people who want to basically be a validator, that very much can act as a force of centralization. So currently, for example, there are 5 major staking pools, and this is specifically about Ethereum, but it applies to Gnosis Chain as well. Those 5 major staking pools account for over 76% of staked ETH, with Lido leading the pack. Lido is followed by Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, and there's apparently an unknown pool based on data from Beacon Chain. So that's a major, concern for how decentralized both Ethereum and potentially Gnosis Chain can be going forward with the growing popularity of staking pools. So, yeah, how does StakeWise contribute to geographic diversity, or what is StakeWise doing to counteract network centralization and the role that staking pools play in that equation?
Yeah, well, I think it's an excellent question, and the one that I enjoy answering specifically because StakeWise V3 is aiming to sort of counteract the centralizing forces that pooled staking has brought onto Ethereum and Gnosis Chain, frankly. So we see that the reason why there's a lot of concentration of stake within, let's say, just a handful of entities, even if they are supported by multiple node operators, I think would still be looking at roughly 40, maybe 50 at most entities that are controlling an overwhelming majority of the stake on Ethereum, and even more so on Gnosis Chain today, despite the number of participants. Just in terms of concentration, there's still high concentration, even let's say on StakeWise's nodes, and this is not a good scenario for censorship resistance and just fault tolerance in general. So this needs to be changed. So more stake needs to be handled by just independent parties, and they can be solo stakers. They can be just smaller operators that receive delegations from others, but don't necessarily grow to a large size that, let's say, Lido grew to. And the way that we want to facilitate this distribution of stake is by allowing access to liquid staking to anyone who can run nodes, with the hope that they will either run nodes for themselves. So we'll prefer running solo instead of delegating to somebody else, or we'll delegate and consciously choose smaller providers over larger providers. Historically, we think the reason why solo staking and staking with smaller providers has not been as popular as it could have been is because of basically the complexity of solo staking, the lack of representation of smaller operators within liquid staking services, and the popularity of liquid staking services. So it's very simple with liquid staking, where you delegate with one click. You can delegate any amount that you want, and then you can still use the capital that you staked. So you haven't really locked it. And this just offers a massive appeal when you compare it to just, let's say, solo staking, where you lock your capital up. There's a high capital barrier. There's a high technical barrier. And you kind of are forced as a person that's holding GNO or ETH to either go down the route where you get, let's say, lots of benefits, but the network suffers, or you support the network and you kind of trade off the benefits that you could have received for network security. And we just don't feel like this should be that there should be such a trade-off. People should be able to access the benefits that the network offers from their own node, and this is why StakeWise V3 is so powerful, because it enables that. Within our system, one can set up a vault for themselves to stake into, or to receive delegations from others. And then no matter who deposits into that vault will be able to mint a liquid staking token to access DeFi and all the benefits that it brings. And this is very different from, let's say, Lido, where you deposit into one staking contract, you get a single token, but the stake is spread amongst the same, roughly 30 to 35 operators. Here you have a choice of who is going to stake your GNO or ETH, like for starters, or you can even be that person yourself. You can even run your own validator and still have a stake that's liquid. Now, this solves the, let's say, like the benefits question, but there's still this sort of technical requirement, and there's still this capital requirement. Now, with the Gnosis chain, the capital requirement is actually not an issue, frankly, because if you can start with even one GNO, this is way better than what is it, roughly $65,000 at the current rate on Ethereum. So we're already looking at like a major improvement on Gnosis Chain just because of the capital requirement. Plus, you can now you will be able to stake in liquid form on your own node with StakeWise V3. It leaves us with the technical complexity. The technical complexity we're trying to solve by making sure that setting up a solo validator is super easy. And there are great teams that are already working on this problem, like DAppNode and Avado, and I'm sure someone else. And we're trying to, first of all, work with them to have StakeWise embedded into their platforms for people, to use, to have a solo node that can be deployed, within minutes. And also are building our own application that is going to simplify running a solo node from any kind of infrastructure, be it a Raspberry Pi, or be it a Kubernetes cluster on a server. The key innovation that we try to bring here is the presence of a graphical user interface, which is something that improves the usability of such packages. So what DAppNode has and what Avado has is a lot of complexity that's abstracted away to the end user through a graphical interface, and all you need to do is just push a few buttons. But ultimately, users are tied to the machines. So for those who are happy with using hardware from these providers, we will undoubtedly direct them towards DAppNode and Avado and anyone who comes after them. But for those who want to use their own hardware, we will have a package for them that they could use to run solo validators on Gnosis Chain and Ethereum from their own machine. And yeah, once we solve for offering similar benefits to other people who stake in liquid form, so give solo stakers a liquid token. Once we solve for technical complexity and the capital requirements, we are looking at literally no barriers to more adoption of solo staking, and therefore we're hopefully looking at a decentralization like at a very rapid scale. So that's our vision for it. That's the vision for how StakeWise V3 can do good for the two networks on which we're present, and we're just working very hard to make this vision a reality.
And to what extent is StakeWise permissionless? So, like, in the event that StakeWise as a platform were to go down or something like that, or you were sanctioned or something and asked to KYC all of your users, what happens in that scenario?
So if today, let's say the StakeWise team or the company that engages in the development of StakeWise code were somehow apprehended or got into a traffic accident or something were to happen to it, the code that already exists would continue running. And I think the only weak point that we have as a protocol is the reliance on StakeWise Labs as a node operator on both the Gnosis chain and Ethereum. So if there were no one that's running the nodes, it would be the service would become worse. But ultimately, the service wouldn't stop. So with StakeWise V3, and the contracts are permissionless. The DAO controls the deployment of the contracts and can change its parameters. It happens through snapshot, together with the Zodiac integration. So we try to keep it as decentralized as possible, and I think we're going to take it a step further with StakeWise V3 because we will not be a party that, let's say, on which the protocol relies to produce a good yield. We're going to make participating in staking and StakeWise V3 specifically permissionless. Contracts, again, also permissionless and non-custodial. On the vault side, it's going to be fully controlled by people who deploy vaults. So the StakeWise DAO even won't have a say into into how a vault functions once it has been deployed by someone, and is only going to curate vault upgrades in terms of versioning. So offer a new version for an upgrade, and if a person that's running a vault is willing to upgrade, then it's up to them, but it's not forced onto them. And then what the DAO is going to focus on is the development of OS GNO and OS ETH on the respective networks. Just the utility and liquidity for those two tokens, and the different parameters for minting, burning them, for liquidations, for fees, and of course the SWISE token that governs DAO and is held in the treasury. And ultimately, yeah, if like once StakeWise V3 is deployed, we hope that it's actually going to be as decentralized as it can be, because there will not be a point where the StakeWise team being apprehended or hit by a bus is going to influence how the protocol runs. So that's really the standard to which we're striving. And we can't wait to launch it, honestly, precisely because of everything that's been going on with the industry.
Yeah, I mean, super cool. I'm excited to use it myself. Okay, well, I got one last question for you, kind of on this topic. Censorship, obviously, on Ethereum is a contentious topic with the events around Tornado Cash and Flashbots and Mev. So StakeWise, as I understand it, offers Flashbots integration with StakeWise V3, right? But that seems to stand at odds with how StakeWise values decentralization. Or correct me if I'm wrong with the Flashbots integration.
So the way that actually StakeWise V3, the way that we approach this is we give full control over the choice of relay and over the choice of whether to build blocks with with the MEV package from Flashbots, or to build them yourself, to the person that's operating a vault. So actually, I don't think that we're going to be at odds with this notion of censorship, precisely because people will be free to choose. So the way that it's going to work is that the DAO will have a list of what we call approved relays. And generally, the way that you would, consider something as, fit for this approved list is a relay that consistently produces a, relatively okay yield, just all things considered, not too high, not too low compared to the market standard. And within the confines of approved relays, every vault operator, so every node operator in StakeWise V3 will be free to choose what they want to do. If they want to build their own blocks and they don't want to use any packages from anyone, then they're free to do so. However, they will have to be careful not to fall behind on performance, because there is a component of there is a reliance within StakeWise V3 on the returns that are produced by each individual vault. So if you have a liquid staking token that's built on top of all these vaults, if all of the vaults are producing a low yield, you cannot manufacture high yield on the level of a liquid staking token. And so the way that we protect the token holders against certain vaults that might fall behind due to their bad performance or them being slashed and so forth, is that if they are not contributing enough, they are essentially penalized. Essentially in cases where you want to build your own blocks, you can do so for as long as, you can do so profitably for as long as you're hitting a certain sort of benchmark level of yield that other relays achieve in the approved list. But if you're falling behind, then you're going to be penalized to compensate for the difference. And we feel that this is, I guess, the combination of different approaches that we came up with that's going to serve the purposes of our protocol and also the network the best.
Will the agnostic relay be an available option for users?
So it's up to the DAO, but personally, I support that, and I don't see why not.
For those that don't know, I selfishly just plugged something that the GnosisDAO and their contributors made. The agnostic relay is a fork of Flashbots. It's open source and incredibly neutral block building, permissionless. So that was I just folded that in there real quick.
Yeah, well,
okay.
as far as the last I remember, agnostic relay is handling a lot of blocks and doing so pretty successfully in terms of producing market or even above market rate in terms of fees paid to the validators on Ethereum. So I don't see how it couldn't get included into the approved list.
Very cool. Well, Kirill, I don't want to keep you for much longer. You've been very generous with your time and all the knowledge that you have. Are there any upcoming events or anything that you'd like to share with the community here about StakeWise before we jump off the call?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for asking insightful questions, and I do hope that the responses we provided have been helpful in understanding what StakeWise V3 plans to achieve and the role it wants to play on the Gnosis Chain in its ecosystem. When it comes to the upcoming developments, so we actually are about to release essentially an announcement for the next steps towards the V3 deployment on mainnet. So anything that our community needs to know just in anticipation of StakeWise V3 release, like when is it going to happen and so forth. So certainly stay tuned for that. And otherwise, yeah, we're always very happy to see new faces in our community, whether they come from the Gnosis Chain or Ethereum. So if you have more questions, if you feel like sticking around to be the first to know the updates, or in general you're looking for a fun crowd, don't hesitate and join our Discord or Telegram, and we look forward to having you there.
And likewise, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I think you're a very articulate guy and clearly extremely knowledgeable about all this stuff. So thanks again for for everything and your time. And thank you
Thank you
everyone
for your
who
kind
made it.
words.
Yeah, of course. And thank you everyone for making it today. The GnosisDAO Community Call happens once a month. It's always on the second Thursday of each month, and we always feature an external team building on Gnosis Chain, along with all the Gnosis ecosystem updates. So with that, I hope you have a great rest of the month. We'll see you right back here. We'll also see you on the Gnosis Chain Discord, and of course, we'll see you on Chain. So thanks everyone, and talk to you soon.